Alright guys, it is Wingy here and welcome to a brand new video on my channel. Today I'm going to be talking about my favourite TV show, Doctor Who. In the 54 years now that Doctor Who has been going, it has given us some of the best television in history. However, it has also given us some utter shite. So what I'm going to be looking at today is 10 of the worst Doctor Who stories from the new series, because I'm going to do the classic series separately. Also bear in mind, this is just my opinion, so if you happen to disagree and your favourite story is on this list, then doesn't matter at all. I shouldn't be able to take that away from you if it is your favourite story. You're not really going to change my mind by calling me a cunt in the comment section either, so instead just put what your top 10 worst stories of the new series would be in the comments. With that quick disclaimer out the way, here we go with my personal top 10 worst Doctor Who stories. Closing Time for me is on here just because of how naff it is, like everything about it, just naff. Okay, so The Lodger to a lot of people wasn't necessarily the best Doctor Who story. However, I actually really enjoyed it, and I liked the character of Craig. I thought James Corden did a really good job. I liked that it was a low budget episode, but there was still some enjoyment there. So naturally they thought, yeah, okay, let's do a sequel to it, and that was what we ended up with, the Cybermen in a shopping centre. Genius! Also the fact that the Cybermen were defeated by love, just no. And this is gonna sound really harsh, but at the end when they were putting on the Cyberman suit onto James Corden, did anyone else just think that isn't gonna fit? However, it wouldn't be the first time given Attack of the Cybermen. So yeah, just a really naff story, nothing about it that's interesting, nothing about it exciting, and a great Doctor Who villain wasted. However, not for the first time and not for the last time, as we will find out later on this list. Moving on. Kill the Moon had a great idea behind it, however, it just didn't handle it well. It's so on the nose about the similarities between the situation that our heroes are in and with abortion in real life. It just makes it so painfully obvious while you're watching it. It's just like, couldn't you have made this a bit more subtle? Not only that, the Doctor pisses off at the beginning of the story, which was, I guess, in character for the 12th Doctor at the time, but I didn't want a story about Clara. Again, it was around the point of Kill the Moon that I thought, yeah, this is turning into the Clara show now. I don't want it, stop it. But no, we have Clara, who's as interesting as Ken Barlow talking about carpet samples with Alan Titchmarsh, and also a supporting cast talking about this big decision that they have to make, while the Doctor's just chilling with a pint somewhere, I imagine. But despite all of that, the main problem that I have with this story is that the moon is an egg. Oh no, I shit you not, people who haven't watched that episode. Yeah, the moon is a fucking egg. Oh, and not only that, when the creature hatches from this egg, i.e. our moon, it leaves behind another egg, therefore another moon, so the tides are fine, I guess. What twat wrote that and thought that was clever? I bet it was Moffat. I'm gonna look it up. Okay, credit to Moffat. It wasn't actually by him. However, he did commission the story in the first place. And did I mention that the moon was a fucking egg? The Idiot's Lantern next, which might be a surprising choice for some people, but yeah, I just can't stand this story. It's not that it's necessarily bad, it's just I can never ever rewatch it. I don't know what it is, but if I'm in a marathon and I'm watching series 2, I get partway through this episode, or I just skip it entirely. I just can't get to the end of it. I don't know what it is. It isn't a terrible story, and I know that, but the thing is, if I can't force myself to watch it, and I can't even be bothered to finish it, then surely it's gotta be on this list. Some of you might be arguing that it's not the worst episode of Series 2 and that Love and Monsters should be on this list. It isn't going to be on this list because I can at least watch it and understand where they were going with that episode. With The Idiot's Lantern, it's just crap. There's just nothing about it that I enjoy. It's just very vanilla. Oh, and Maureen Lipman is just so cringy in that story. I think that might be it. It might be Maureen Lipman, or it might even be David Tennant with the whole "you're going my way, doll." See, I felt cringy just doing it as a piss take in my room. God knows how he must have felt doing that. But yeah, shit, and it's on here. Wedding a River Song was the story where I thought, Jesus, Moffat does not know what he wants to do, does he? Series 6 was complicated enough, but this finale was literally it was a clusterfuck of shit. Nothing in this story makes sense. And I know it's not really supposed to, but I don't know what's going on. There's too many elements in this story, there's too many previous threads dragged into it as well. I can't keep up with it. See, there was a time when I would go around to my granddad's house and he would ask me, I watched Doctor Who, but what happened in it? Explain it to me, Alex. And depending on the episode, I would explain what happened. Then one week, I went round, I watched Doctor Who this weekend, Alex. What exactly happened? And as it was the week that the Wedding a River Song had been broadcast, I literally just stared at him blankly, just as confused as he was. I've rewatched it since. I still can't tell you what that episode is about. There's just too many things in there, and it's not even interesting. It just angers me because I'm like, well, what the fuck is this about? There's like little people, and there's Churchill in it, and there's a train going into a pyramid, and what the hell's going on? Ooh, the 10th Doctor's final story. Come at me, 10 fans, you're gonna get really annoyed for the next few minutes. I don't really think I could say anything new that people haven't already said on YouTube about the end of time, but it is atrocious. It isn't necessarily the story itself. Whilst it's not the greatest story in the world, it's not the worst one, but it's what this story does and what this story represents that really gets on my tits. So, first of all, the 10th Doctor himself. Well, he gives this whole spiel about how regeneration is about him dying. A new man comes in his clothes and just swans off. It isn't actually a death, but it feels like dying. Piss off. That is not what happens. That dialogue is literally just to sabotage Matt Smith. All you little idiot fangirls at home would just be like, that man with the floppy hair is gonna come in and take away our David Tennant. So yeah, it pisses about regeneration and sort of hints at the viewer that it isn't the Doctor regenerating and still surviving, it's this Doctor dying and him being replaced. The worst bit is yet to come. Okay, I'll save that bit for last. I'll move on to the very end where we get the whole Walk of Fame. The whole last 20 minutes of this story is literally just the Doctor wandering about visiting his old companions before he dies looking all sad, which is basically Russell T Davies masturbating over the last 4 years worth of work that he's done on Doctor Who. And it's done. The regeneration takes too long. When the Doctor was in the radiation chamber, he should have just come up like that and he should have been Matt Smith. He shouldn't have still been David Tennant. But speaking of that radiation chamber, we get the scene with Wilf. The Doctor ranting about how it's not fair. I have so much more to give. I'm too young and handsome and my fangirls will miss me. And then, as much as he bitches and moans and throws a little hissy fit, he then turns to Wilf, the sad old man who will die. Sorry, I don't think I emphasised that enough. Then he looks at Wilf, the old man who will die, and then says, I will take your place in there. It is my honour. Is it? Well, it wasn't a few minutes ago when you were throwing your toys out of the pram, ranting and raving about how it's not fair. No, obviously, you aren't worthy to step in here and regenerate and still live. If I was Wilf when he said, oh, it's my honour, I would say, it clearly isn't. It's fine. You stay handsome. You go back in your TARDIS with your sticky up hair and your suit and you fuck off. And never come back to this planet again. And if you ever do come back, which I advise you don't, I honestly hope that you think of me, the poor innocent man who you let die. I grew up with the 10th Doctor. He's the reason why I love Doctor Who and why I am such a passionate fan about it. However, this story, I can't stand him after that. He's just such an arrogant arsehole. He has to rant and rave how it's not fair. So that's him out of the way. Anyway, the Master's in this story. Yeah, John Sim really hams it up in this story, and for some reason, he's been given superpowers. Why, I couldn't tell you, but he can shoot lightning now. Cool, innit? Why someone thought it would be a good idea why he does have those powers, I don't know. Oh yeah, and the Time Lords are in this as well. Stand around for a bit, they yell for a bit. That's it though. They're there. Ooh, Time Lords, yeah. Now that's something that could have been so much more. Nightmare in Silver now, which is easily one of my least favourite Cyberman stories ever. Neil Gaiman wrote this. Neil Gaiman.
Oh, Neil.
Not only do we get Matt Smith with a hammy performance as the Cyber Planner, but we also get those two kids, those two fucking kids. Whoever thought it was a good idea to include them is clearly off their tits on something, because why? Not only that, the Cybermen in this story are just crap and nothing like the Cybermen. I understand that they keep upgrading and that is part of their technology, but in this story, it just doesn't work. What makes Cybermen scary is that they are slow. They are lumbering monsters that will not stop. If they're running around like the Flash, that's shit. They are not robots. They seem to forget that in this story. They are humans inside that metal suit. They are decaying corpses, essentially. So when they're taking off bits of the hands and their heads and whatnot, it just looks ridiculous. And it doesn't fit with what the Cybermen are about at all. It's like they took everything scary with the Cybermen and just flipped it on its head. Just, there's nothing interesting in this story, and ever since I watched it for the first time, which was when it was broadcast, I've never found myself wanting to revisit it because it was that bad. Oh dear, this two-parter. People who know me, they knew this was going to be on the list, but oh, we've got some things to say about this piece of shit. Okay, so in this story, let me tell you what happens in the first part at least. Nothing happens in this story. The first part is essentially getting to where the Doctor and companion need to be. I don't want to say a name, but we know who I mean. But why spend the entire runtime faffing about when you could just start where you need the story to be? There's no reason for Clara in this story. Oh shit, I said her name. There's no need for Unit, there's no need for Missy, there's no need for the planes in the sky, not that weird snake man. Even the Daleks don't need to be in this story. The only two things that need to be in this story, the Doctor and Davros. Everything else just doesn't need to be there, yet somehow they are. Oh, and the Doctor's entrance in part 1. Genuinely, this happens right here. Really? Fannying about aside, let's get on to part 2 of this story where, again, not a lot happens, but the best scene in this entire episode does, which is the Doctor and Davros talking. Now, I love these scenes between the Doctor and Davros. They are great. They are usually some of the best moments that any Doctor will have. And this started out like that. And I would still say that the performances are fantastic. There's only 2 major problems that I can see with this scene. First of all, the reveal that it was a trap. Now, yes, duh. Of course it was a trap. Davros was clearly going to set the Doctor up. That is fine. But the fact that the Doctor knew it was a trap and went anyway it just undermines the entire scene. Like, why would he go? If it was as straightforward as when the Doctor said, "You asked, so I came," and that's it, fine. That would have been perfect. It would have been brilliant character development for the 12th Doctor. Second of all, Davros opens his eyes because Moffat just has to take everything from Doctor Who history and just meddle with it. Let me ask you this. What's better? A man who is driven insane by war and he is terribly disfigured to the point where his eyes are burnt shut, or everything about him is disfigured but he can still open his eyes and he's just been keeping them shut. Plus, the main story about this was about the young Davros, and where was he in this story? Oh yeah, at the very beginning and at the very end. He wasn't even used much when he was the most interesting thing about this story. Moffat just neglected it again because Moffat, that's why. Yeah, this story's atrocious. I know people like it, and if you like it, then like it. I think it is the biggest pile of shit and the worst Dalek story we've ever had, and I've seen them all. A surprising choice at number 2, The Crimson Horror. Now, why is this story my number 2? Well, I will tell you. I never actually finished watching this story. I started watching it, I thought, oh, this is shit. It's just so boring. And I just never bothered finishing watching the episode. Simply that. I got so bored with it, and this was the first time this has ever happened to me, I just couldn't be bothered to finish watching the episode. Plus, Strax is in this story, which is a big plus in my book. That was sarcasm. I hate Strax and the others. But yeah, maybe it is better than I anticipated. However, I have seen clips from this story subsequently and I'm still not interested in revisiting it or even bothering finishing it. It's my number 2 for that reason. As stupid as that may be, that is why it's my number 2. Yep. Hellbent's my number 1, and no surprises there. Oh, this episode. Where do I begin? Bear this in mind. I've seen a lot of Doctor Who. From the original series all the way up to present day, I've seen the majority. And when watching any of those episodes, whether they're bad, whether they're good, whether they're great, I've still come away from them thinking, you know what, there were still some redeeming qualities in that. It wasn't that bad in certain places. You know, I may not revisit it, but it is what it is. But this piece of shit. Oh. This is my #1 worst for not just the new series, but for Doctor Who in general, because this episode managed to make me feel angry, to make me feel disappointed, to make me feel like the showrunner just doesn't care. It made me feel like I don't want to watch Doctor Who anymore. I honestly got to that point with this episode. After I watched it, I thought, I can't be a fan anymore if this is what they're going to give us. Oh, I'm still going to talk about it more. Oh my god, right, okay. The worst part about this story is that it followed on from arguably one of the best Doctor Who stories in recent memory. Heaven Sent was fantastic. It was brilliant. And Face the Raven wasn't great, but at least it gave Clara a decent ending, a companion that, let's be honest, not a lot of people liked. And Heaven Sent was all about the Doctor trying to get over her death. It was written beautifully. So I cannot understand how 1 week later, we get a story written by the same man that undid every single brilliant thing he did in the previous 2 weeks. We were promised Gallifrey, we were promised the Time Lords, we were promised the Doctor going back to his homeland and taking it back. And we did for like 15 minutes where not a lot happens other than Rassilon, who now isn't Timothy Dalton but is some bald git, and it's a simple case of, you're a git, fuck off my planet. And he does! And that's it! That is literally it! That is the big showdown that we get. Then what happens after that? Clara. Ugh. Oh, it makes me feel dirty even saying a name. She is the worst thing about Doctor Who in a long, long time. I would rather have Mel back, or Dodo, or Adric. This episode turned from a standoff on Gallifrey to the Doctor breaking his character, shooting the General in point-blank range just for the sake of a PC regeneration. Nothing else. The Doctor didn't need to shoot him. The only reason that scene is in this story is purely so that they can show that a white man can regenerate into a black woman. And it makes it even worse because the General was actually on the Doctor's side and was willing to help him, yet he still shot him dead anyway, completely out of character and completely unnecessary. This episode also reminds us of one of the other big things in Doctor Who that is controversial for fans to talk about, whether or not the Doctor's half human. Why bring that up? We buried it under the carpet about 20 odd years ago with the TV movie. Just leave it there. Don't bring it up, Moffat. But no, he does, and then the rest of the episode, it isn't this standoff, it is literally people talking about shit that doesn't make any sense, that isn't interesting, and doesn't go anywhere. And this is for 40 minutes. That they're talking about the hybrid. That's never resolved. No one knows what the hybrid is. Well, at least no one knows for sure what the hybrid is. Does anyone care at this point? I don't think they do. A Shielder's here for some reason. Not calling her me. A Shielder's here. No idea why. Then the worst thing in this episode happens. The Doctor forgets Clara, which trust me isn't the worst, but I'm getting there. And then she gets her own TARDIS and her own companion. And then Capaldi utters the words, Clara who? Moffat. What this episode did was childish. It's like he wasn't doing these things for the good of the story. He was doing everything in this just to spite the fans that didn't like certain things. That is not the attitude that you should have as the showrunner. You should be giving the fans what they want, not just getting pissed off at them and doing more of the same shit when they don't like what you do, when they are the people who watch your show and essentially pay you. Because without them supporting the show, you wouldn't have a job. Thankfully now, he doesn't with Doctor Who anymore. I shouldn't feel offended to watch your show, especially when it is my favourite show, or at least it was. I can't say it is now after Hellbent. And I just feel sorry for Capaldi, because his era is going to be tarnished with this. Even if Series 10 gives us the greatest Doctor Who story of all time, doesn't matter. We're going to remember Hellbent anyway. Her own fucking TARDIS, man. Like, her own TARDIS. Come on. I didn't even mention that it took death off the table either. Yeah, as long as Clara goes back to that certain point in time, then no consequences whatsoever. So it doesn't matter. If anyone dies in Doctor Who now, go back to Gallifrey. Sorted. At the mere mention of Hellbent now, this is more or less me. Worst story ever in its history. That is an achievement in itself, so I guess I give you that. If you want it, have it. I need a life. That's going to be it from me, guys, anyway. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure you leave a like on it. Let me know in the comments below. What do you think? Do you agree with my list? What would your list be? Anything like that, let me know in the comments below. Also, subscribe if you want to see more Doctor Who related videos on my channel, and also follow me on Patreon if you want some exclusive content from me also. But until next time, guys, take care of yourselves. Goodbye. If it was as straightforward as the Doctor said, where you came. No. No, definitely not.